The UES Perseverance moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Commander Hyun-woo stood on the bridge and watched the stars pass by on the main screen. His ship was small compared to the big military vessels back on Earth, but it was home to 200 brave people who wanted to see what was out there in the galaxy. "Sir, we are picking up something strange," said Communications Officer Bo-ram. She looked at her screens with worried eyes. "There are ships coming toward us. Big ships." Captain Jin-ae walked over to look at the readings. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes who had been in space for 15 years. "How big are we talking about, Bo-ram?" "Each one is 10 times bigger than our ship, Captain. And there are 12 of them." Dr. So-young looked up from her science station. She was the ship's expert on alien life, though they had never found any before today. "The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases. This technology is very advanced." Engineer Tae-min checked his systems. "Our engines are running fine, but if those ships want to stop us, there's not much we can do about it." Security Chief Do-hyun stepped forward. He was a calm man who never seemed worried about anything. "What are your orders, Captain?" Jin-ae thought for a moment. First contact with aliens was something every human ship hoped for, but also feared. "We follow protocol. Open channels on all frequencies. Let them know we come in peace." Bo-ram worked at her station. "Channels open, Captain. Unknown vessels, this is Captain Jin-ae of the human exploration ship UES Perseverance. We are explorers from Earth. We come in peace and wish to make contact." The response came quickly, but not in words. The alien ships moved to surround the Yao human vessel. Energy beams locked onto the Perseverance, but they did not fire. Instead, they seemed to be scanning everything. "They are reading our ship like a book," Tae-min said. "Every system, every person aboard. Their scanners are incredibly powerful." Then a voice came through their speakers. It was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Small creatures, you will submit. Your vessel will be taken. Resistance will result in destruction." Pilot Dongmin looked at the captain. "Should I try to run?" 12 ships, each one bigger than us? Jin-ae shook her head. "We would not make it far." The alien ships moved closer. One of them was so large it blocked out the stars. Strange lights appeared around the Perseverance, and the human ship began to move toward the biggest alien vessel. "They are pulling us in with some kind of tractor beam," Tae-min reported. "I cannot break free." Lieutenant Woo Jin studied the alien ships through the sensors. "Look at the design of those vessels. They are built for war. Heavy armor, lots of weapons. These are not explorers like us." Dr. So-young was recording everything. "The energy patterns suggest a highly advanced civilization, but the way they approached us shows they see meeting new species as a military operation, not a scientific one." The Perseverance was pulled into the massive alien ship. The human crew felt the artificial gravity change as they entered the alien vessel. Through the windows, they could see a huge hangar filled with smaller ships that looked like fighters and bombers. "Atmosphere is being pumped into the hangar," Tae-min said. "They want us to be able to breathe when we meet them." Captain Jin-ae made a decision. "All crew members stay calm. We are representing humanity today. Whatever happens, we show them what humans are made of." The airlock opened and the aliens came aboard. The first thing that struck the humans was the size. The aliens were huge, each one standing over 8 feet tall. They had thick skin that looked like armor with sharp claws and teeth designed for tearing. Their eyes were cold and yellow and they moved like predators who had never known fear. The largest alien stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder. "I am War Prime Gextar of the Velak Empire. You small creatures will tell me what world you come from, so we may decide if it is worth taking." Do-hyun stepped forward without hesitation. The other humans watched as their security chief looked up at the massive alien who could easily tear him apart. "Are you feeling all right? You sound like you might have a throat problem. We have a good doctor if you need help." The alien stopped talking. He stared down at the human who showed no fear. Behind him, other Velak warriors looked confused. In their experience, smaller creatures always showed terror when facing them. Kextar tried again. He let out a roar that was designed to make other species submit. It was a sound that had made entire planets surrender without a fight. Medic Hyejin covered her ears. That is very loud. Are you trying to communicate something specific, or is this a cultural greeting? The Valak warriors looked at each other. Never in their long history had they met creatures who did not fear them. Every species they had encountered immediately recognized them as apex predators and either ran or begged for mercy. Dr. So Young stepped forward with her scanner. Fascinating. Your species appears to be adapted for a high-gravity world with dangerous predators. The bone density alone suggests incredible physical strength. Gextar was becoming frustrated. You will show proper respect to your superiors. Commander Hyun Woo spoke calmly. We respect all intelligent life. If you would like to sit down and talk, we would be happy to share information about our species and learn about yours. The War Prime did something he had never done before in a first contact situation. He took a step back. These small creatures were not acting like prey. They were not acting like anything he understood. Tactical Officer Jae-won was quietly studying the Velic equipment and weapons. He whispered to Woo Jin, "Look at their gear. It is designed to intimidate more than to function efficiently. These are bullies, not warriors." One of the younger Valak warriors, confused by the lack of fear, activated his weapon and pointed it at the humans. The energy weapon hummed with deadly power. Engineer Subin looked at the weapon with interest. Is that a plasma-based energy projector? The power coupling is very impressive. How do you prevent overheating with that design? The young Valak warrior looked at his weapon, then at the human who was asking technical questions instead of begging. For her life. He slowly lowered the weapon. War Prime Gextar made a decision. You creatures are not normal. You will come with us to our fortress world for study. Perhaps our scientists can understand what is wrong with you. Captain Jinne nodded. We accept your invitation to visit your world. This is an historic moment for both our species. As the Velak escorted the humans to holding quarters, Gextar could not shake the feeling that something was very wrong. In 5,000 years of galactic conquest, no species had ever failed to recognize the Velak as their superiors. These humans were either the bravest creatures in the galaxy or the most foolish. Either way, they were definitely the strangest prey the Velak had ever captured. The Velak fortress world of Kethmar was a dark place under a red sun. The humans could see it through the small windows of their detention center as their ship landed. The planet looked like it was built for war, with massive structures that reached into the sky like metal claws. Bioanalyst Rektal watched the humans through hidden cameras. He was the Velak Empire's leading expert on prey species behavior. In his long career, he had studied hundreds of different alien races that the Velak had conquered. All of them followed the same patterns when captured. First came fear, then came submission. Then the creatures would form hierarchies based on who could best please their Velak masters. They would fight over food and resources. They would betray each other to gain small advantages. It was always the same. But these humans were different. Lieutenant Woo Jin had organized the crew into exercise groups. Every morning, the humans would spend time doing physical training together. They moved in coordination, helping each other, encouraging the weak to become stronger. Why do they make themselves tired when they should be saving energy? Rektal asked his assistant. In his experience, captured creatures usually became lazy and hopeless. Medic Hyejin had turned one corner of their large cell into a medical area. She treated injuries and sickness among the crew, but she also did something that shocked the Velak guards. When one of them was injured during their duties, she offered to help. The cut on your arm looks infected, she told Guardcast. Take more through the cell bars. I can clean it properly if you want. The Velak guard stared at her. No prey creature had ever offered to help a Velak before. They were too afraid, and besides, helping your captors made no sense. Communications Officer Boram spent her time listening to Velak conversations and learning their language. Within just a few days, she could understand basic Velak words. Within a week, she was speaking simple sentences. How is she learning so fast? Rektal wondered. Most species took months to learn even basic Valak communication. But what worried the Valak scientists most was how the humans worked together. There was no fighting over food. No one tried to gain favor with the guards by betraying others. Instead, they shared everything equally and made decisions as a group. This is not normal prey behavior, Rektal reported to War Prime Gextar. They act more like a pack of predators than individual prey creatures. Gextar was growing impatient. Then we will test them properly. Put them in the trial grounds. Let us see how they behave when they face real danger. The trial grounds were a massive arena built into the mountains of Kethmar. It contained creatures from many different worlds, all of them dangerous predators that the Valak used to test the courage of their own warriors. No prey species had ever survived more than a few hours in the trial grounds. When the humans were released into the arena, pilot Dong Min immediately began looking for useful materials. He found pieces of metal and broken equipment left by previous victims. Within minutes, he was making tools. Look at that, Rektal pointed at his screens. The small one is making weapons from garbage. Marine Sergeant Ki Young gathered the civilians and began organizing them into groups. Scientists, engineers, and medical staff were moved to safe positions while the security personnel spread out. To form a defensive perimeter, they are using military tactics, observed Guard Captain Morthek. But these are supposed to be explorers, not soldiers. Engineer Subin found a place where water dripped from the arena walls. She began building a collection system and a basic shelter. Other humans brought materials and helped with the construction without being asked. Dr. So Young started studying the arena's predators from a safe distance. She took notes on their behavior patterns and feeding habits. The large-scaled ones are ambush predators, she told the others. They wait near the water sources. We should avoid those areas during their active periods. When night came, the humans had built a small camp with walls, traps, and water collection. They had identified the locations of all the major predators and worked out safe paths through the arena. The Valak watchers expected the real test to begin when the humans encountered their first predator. They did not have to wait long. A Krexthul, a massive creature with razor-sharp claws and armor-like skin, detected the human camp. These beasts were known for their aggression and had killed many Valak warriors over the years. A single Krexthul was considered a worthy opponent for an entire Valak hunting party. Tactical Officer Jae Wan spotted the creature first. Large predator approaching from the East Canyon, probably weighs about 800 kilos, armed with natural weapons. The humans did not panic, they did not run. Instead, they activated a plan they had prepared. Subin triggered a series of traps that channeled the Krexthul toward a specific area. Dongmin and others used noisemakers to confuse the creature's hearing. Ki Young led a team with spears, made from arena debris. But what happened next shocked every Valak watching. The humans did not try to kill the Krexthul through strength. They used their minds. They had studied how the creature moved and learned its weaknesses. They worked together, like parts of a single organism. When the beast charged, it fell into a pit that Subin had covered with debris. When it climbed out, it found itself surrounded by humans with spears. But they did not attack randomly. They moved in coordination, striking at specific points that Dr. So Young had identified as vulnerable. The Krexthul, a creature that had terrorized Valak warriors for generations, was brought down by a species that looked like it could barely hurt a small animal. "This is impossible," whispered War Prime Gextar. "The humans are smaller and weaker than Valak younglings. How did they kill a Krexthul?" But the humans were not finished. Engineer Taemin began cutting up the creature's body, using every part. The meat became food. The hide became leather for better clothing. The bones became tools and weapons. The claws became spear points. "They are not just surviving," Rektal reported with growing alarm. "They are adapting. They are becoming stronger." Over the following days, the humans continued to impress and terrify their watchers. They killed other predators using different tactics each time. They never fought the same way twice. They learned from every encounter and improved their methods. Communications. Specialist Yu Jin managed to tap into the arena's communication systems and began listening to Valak conversations. Intelligence Officer Minho started mapping the entire facility from inside the arena. They are gathering information about us, Guard Captain Morthek realized. They are studying us the same way we are studying them. The humans built better shelters, more effective weapons, and more complex traps. They established hunting schedules and guard rotations. They even began domesticating some of the smaller arena creatures for food and labor. By the end of the first week, the trial grounds looked like a human settlement. The most dangerous predators in the arena were either dead or hiding from the humans. War Prime Gextar stood in his command center, watching the screens with growing dread. Every instinct told him that something was terribly wrong. These creatures were supposed to be prey, but they were acting like something far more dangerous. Sir, Rektal approached carefully. I have been studying the humans' behavior patterns. I believe we have made a serious mistake. What kind of mistake? We assumed they were prey because they are small and weak. But their behavior patterns match those of apex predators. They show no fear, they cooperate perfectly, they adapt quickly, and they solve problems like hunters, not like prey. Gextar felt something he had not experienced in many years. For the first time since he was a young warrior, he felt uncertain. If they are predators, he asked slowly, then what does that make us? Neither Valak wanted to answer that question. The escape from the trial grounds happened on a quiet night when most Valak guards were sleeping. Strategic analyst Young Su had spent days studying the patrol patterns and security systems. He found a weakness in their defenses that the Valak had never noticed because no prey species had ever looked for it. The humans did not try to reach their ship or find a way off the planet. Instead, they split into small groups and began moving through the Valak fortress like ghosts. Reconnaissance specialist Nari led the way, using skills that seemed impossible for someone from a prey species. She could move through Valak corridors without making a sound. She could hide in shadows that seemed too small to hide anyone. She could watch Valak guards for hours without being detected. The Valak had excellent senses, but somehow this small human woman could avoid them all. How is she doing that? Guard Captain Morthek asked his security teams. Our thermal sensors should detect her body heat. Our movement detectors should pick up her footsteps. But Nari had learned something about Valak technology that the Valak themselves did not know. Their sensors were designed to detect large, heavy creatures like themselves. They had never needed to watch for small, light beings who could move, with perfect balance and control. Dr. So-Young made an important discovery while studying captured Valak equipment in their research labs. She had broken into their genetic databases and found records of every species in the Valak Empire. This is incredible, she whispered to Communications Officer Boram as they hid in a maintenance tunnel. Every single species they control shows the same genetic patterns. They are all evolved from prey animals, herbivores, scavengers, filter feeders, not one true predator species. What does that mean? Boram asked. It means the Valak have never fought anyone who could fight back. They have spent thousands of years conquering creatures who were already afraid of them. This information changed everything. Captain Jin A realized that the Valak were not the experienced warriors they pretended to be. They were bullies who had only ever picked on victims who could not defend themselves. She began a new strategy. Instead of trying to escape, the humans would make the Valak afraid. The psychological warfare started small. Intelligence Officer Minho left messages written in perfect Valak language in places where guards would find them. The messages said simple things like, "We were here, and we are watching you." Engineer Taman figured out how to access the Valak computer systems. He did not damage anything or steal information. Instead, he left signs that someone had been inside their most secure networks. The Valak guards began to get nervous. They increased patrols and added more security. But the humans always seemed to be one step ahead. Equipment would be moved slightly. Doors would be left open that should have been closed. Personal items would disappear and reappear in different locations. They are playing with us, Rektal reported to War Prime Gextar. They could cause real damage if they wanted to, but instead they are just letting us know they can go anywhere and do anything. The worst part for the Valak was that they could not catch the humans. Their best hunters and trackers could not find creatures who seemed to vanish whenever they were pursued. Security Chief Du-hyun had taught the other humans how to think like predators instead of prey. "Do not run from them," he said. "Make them run from you. A predator who is being hunted becomes prey." The humans began appearing in places where Valak expected to be safe. Engineer Subin was found calmly reading technical manuals in the main armory. When the guards arrived, she politely asked if she could borrow the books. Medic Hyejin set up a small medical station in the Valak residential area and began treating sick and injured Valak who were too embarrassed to go to their own doctors. Many Valak had health problems that their military culture did not allow them to admit. "She is helping our people," reported medical cast Geltar. "And they trust her more than they trust our own healers." This was something the Valak leadership could not understand. Why would prey creatures help their captors? In their experience, conquered species only helped when they were forced to. But the most frightening moment came when Chief Engineer Taemin managed to send a message to human space. The Valak intercepted the transmission and were shocked by the response that came back. The message from Earth was brief. "Received distress signal from UES Perseverance. Admiral Kyung-ho departing with Battle Fleet 7. Estimated arrival in 43 days. Prepare for extraction or liberation as appropriate." War Prime Gextar stared at the message with growing horror. "Battle Fleet 7? How many ships? Is that?" His intelligence staff worked quickly to find the answer. When they reported back, their voices were quiet with fear. "Based on the communication protocols, sir, a human battle fleet appears to consist of approximately 200 warships, plus support vessels. The total fleet size could be over 400 ships. 400 ships for 200 prisoners? Sir, there is something else. Our analysis of the human technology suggests their civilization is much larger than we first thought. The energy signatures in their databases indicate they have colonies on hundreds of worlds. Their total population could be in the billions." Gextar felt the foundation of his understanding cracking. The Valak Empire had never faced a species with that kind of population or military strength. They had conquered individual worlds, not entire galactic civilizations. Meanwhile, the humans continued their strange campaign of psychological pressure. Negotiator Hansol appeared in the Valak council chambers during a high-level meeting. Security had no idea how he had gotten past the guards. "We would like to discuss terms," he said politely to the shocked Valak leaders. Diplomat Prime Zethkar tried to regain control of the situation. "You are prisoners. You do not negotiate. You accept whatever terms we offer." Hansol smiled. "I think you misunderstand the situation. We are not your prisoners. You are our hosts, and very soon you will be our guests." "What do you mean?" "When Admiral Kyung-ho arrives, he will want to see how well you have treated us. Humans have long memories and we always repay our debts. The question is whether you want us to remember you as friends or enemies." The reversal was complete. Suddenly, the Valak found themselves in the position they had put so many other species in. They were the ones who were afraid. They were the ones who did not know what would happen to them. Pilot Dong-min had been studying Valak ships and defenses. He reported to Captain Jin-A that the Valak military was impressive against prey species, but it had serious weaknesses that a real military force could exploit. "Their ships are built for intimidation, not actual combat," he explained. "Big, heavily armored, lots of weapons, but they are slow and clumsy. Their tactics are based on overwhelming creatures who cannot fight back effectively." Tactical officer Jaewon agreed. "They have never learned to fight against an equal opponent. All their strategies assume their enemies will be afraid and disorganized." As the days passed, more humans appeared throughout the Valak fortress. They were not hiding anymore. They walked openly through corridors, nodded politely to guards, and went about their business as if they owned the place. The Valak guards stopped trying to stop them. What was the point? The humans could go anywhere they wanted. They had proven that Valak security meant nothing to them. War Prime Gextar stood in his command center, watching the countdown timer that showed when the human fleet would arrive. For the first time in his long military career, he was afraid of an enemy. The humans had done something no other species had ever managed. They had made the galaxy's most feared predators feel like prey, and the real hunters were coming. Xenoarchaeologist Insu made the discovery that changed everything while exploring the deep tunnels beneath the Velak fortress. He had been searching for a way to access the planetary communication systems when he found something much more important. Hidden. Far below the modern Velak structures were ruins from an ancient civilization. The architecture was different from anything the Velak had built. It was older, more sophisticated, and clearly belonged to a different species entirely. Captain Jin Ai, you need to see this, Insu called through his communicator. He stood in a vast underground chamber filled with broken statues and carved walls covered in strange symbols. Jin Ai arrived with Dr. So Young and several other crew members. They stared in amazement at the ruins around them. This is incredible, Dr. So Young whispered, scanning the walls with her equipment. These structures are at least 10,000 years old, maybe more. The carvings told a story that shocked the humans. They showed a great civilization that had once ruled this part of the galaxy. The beings in the carvings were tall and graceful, with advanced technology and vast cities among the stars. But the final carvings showed something terrible, a great war against creatures that came from the dark spaces between galaxies. The ancient civilization fought bravely, but in the end they were destroyed by enemies that seemed unstoppable. Look at this. Insu pointed to a section of wall near the back of the chamber. These symbols describe the end of the war. The ancient race knew they were going to lose, so they hid their knowledge and technology in secret places. Dr. So Young was taking detailed scans of everything. The technology described here is far more advanced than what the Velak currently use. If the Velak found some of this ancient technology, it would explain how they became so powerful. While the archaeologist worked in the ruins, geneticist Haiwan was making her own discoveries in the Velak research facilities. She had been studying Velak biology and genetics, trying to understand how they had evolved to become such effective predators. What she found was disturbing. They are not natural predators, she reported to the other humans. Their current physical form is the result of genetic modification. Someone changed them from their original form. The evidence was clear in their genetic code. The Velak had originally been much smaller creatures, probably scavengers who fed on the remains of other animals' kills. Somewhere in their history they had used advanced technology to transform themselves into the large, frightening beings they were today. But they did not develop this technology themselves, Haiwan explained. The genetic modification techniques are far too advanced for their current level of science. They must have found it somewhere. The pieces of the puzzle began to come together. The Velak had discovered the ruins of the ancient civilization and taken their technology. They had used it to transform themselves and build their empire. But they did not truly understand what they had found. They were not the galaxy's apex predators. They were scavengers wearing the skin of predators. Meanwhile, Captain Jin Yi received an update from space that made the Velak leadership even more nervous. The human fleet was approaching faster than expected. Admiral Kyung-ho sends his greetings, Communications Officer Bo-ram reported. He wants to know if we require immediate extraction or if the situation is stable. Jin A thought carefully before responding. Tell the Admiral that we are safe, but we have made some important discoveries. Request permission to continue diplomatic contact. The response from Admiral Kyung-ho was interesting. Permission granted. Be advised that Fleet Intelligence has been monitoring Velak expansion for the past 50 years. We consider them a potential threat to galactic stability. War Prime Gextar was listening to these communications with growing panic. 50 years? They have been watching us for 50 years? His intelligence officers had more bad news. Sir, our analysis of human technology suggests they are at least 200 years ahead of us in most areas. Their ships use energy sources we do not understand. Their computers process information faster than our best systems. How is that possible? We have the technology of the ancients. Sir, we only have fragments of ancient technology. And we never really understood how it works. We just learned to use some of their tools. The truth was becoming clear. The Velak Empire was built on borrowed power that they did not truly comprehend. They had been playing with forces beyond their understanding, pretending to be something they were not. Commander Hyunwoo led a mission to the Valak Central Command facility. His team moved through the fortress without resistance. The Valak guards simply watched them pass, too confused and frightened to interfere. The command center was an impressive room filled with displays showing the entire Valak Empire. Hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships, millions of Valak citizens. It looked like an unstoppable military force. But combat specialist Yoonji saw the weaknesses immediately. Their command structure is too centralized, she observed. Everything depends on this one facility. If you disable their central communications, their entire military becomes confused and disorganized. She began studying the Valak defense systems with the eye of a professional soldier. What she found was troubling, but not in the way the Valak expected. They have never fought a real war, she reported to Commander Hyunwoo. All their tactics are based on intimidating creatures that are already afraid of them. They have no experience with actual military strategy. The Valak military doctrine was simple. Show up with big ships and scary soldiers, demand surrender, and most species would give up without a fight. They had never needed to develop real combat skills because they had never faced real opposition. What happens when they meet someone who is not afraid? Hyunwoo asked. They have no idea what to do, Yoonji replied. Look at their weapons. They are designed to cause fear, not to be effective in battle. Look at their ship formations. They are meant to look impressive, not to fight coordinated opponents. The human fleet arrived ahead of schedule. Admiral Kyung-ho's flagship, the UES Indomitable, was a massive vessel that dwarfed even the largest Valak ships. But it was not just the size that impressed the Valak observers. It was the obvious efficiency of its design. Where Valak ships were built to look frightening, human ships were built to work perfectly. Every line served a purpose. Every system was optimized for performance. These were tools built by engineers, not weapons built to scare people. Sir, the Valak sensor operator reported nervously. The human ships are scanning our entire fleet, but we cannot scan them back. Some kind of stealth technology is blocking our sensors. Admiral Kyung-ho's message to the Valak was polite but firm. We are here to retrieve our people and discuss the future relationship between our species. We request immediate safe passage to the surface. War Prime Gextar had no choice but to agree. He could not fight a fleet he could barely see, led by people who had turned his own fortress into a playground. When Admiral Kyung-ho arrived at the fortress, he brought with him a small group of human officers. The Valak were expecting another intimidation display, something they understood. Instead, the Admiral simply walked into the command center and looked around with the expression of someone evaluating a piece of interesting but primitive technology. Thank you for taking care of our people, he said to Gextar. I trust they have not been too much trouble. The understatement was so perfect that several Valak officers made involuntary sounds of disbelief. Dr. So Young presented her findings about the ancient ruins and the true history of Valak civilization. Admiral Kyung-ho listened carefully, occasionally asking technical questions that showed he understood the implications immediately. So, he said finally, you built your empire using technology you found, not technology you developed. Yes, Gextar admitted reluctantly, and you used this technology to conquer species that were not equipped to fight back. Yes. I see. Admiral Kyung-ho was quiet for a moment. That explains a great deal. He turned to Captain Jin-ae. Captain, what is your assessment of the situation? Sir, the Valak are not evil. They are simply confused about their place in the galactic community. I believe this situation can be resolved diplomatically. Admiral Kyung-ho nodded. Then let us show them what real predators look like when they choose diplomacy over war. Admiral Kyung-ho did not order an attack on the Valak fleet. Instead, he did something that confused and terrified the Valak more than any show of force could have. He ignored them completely. The human ships spread out across Valak space and began what they called humanitarian operations. They sent messages to every world in the Valak Empire, broadcasting in hundreds of different languages that most Valak did not even know existed. This is the human stellar navy. the messages said. We are here to offer assistance to any species that wishes to establish independent diplomatic relations with Earth. Transportation to neutral space will be provided for any beings who request it. Strategic Coordinator Sung Min explained the human plan to the shocked Valak leadership. We are not here to conquer your empire. We are here to give every species in your empire the choice you never gave them. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had been conquered by the Valak generations ago suddenly remembered that they had once been free. Messages poured in from thousands of worlds, asking for human help. The Korathi, a species of peaceful traders, were the first to accept human assistance. Their homeworld had been under Valak control for 300 years. Within hours of the human message, transport ships arrived to evacuate any Korathi who wanted to leave. You cannot do this, War Prime Gextar protested. These are our territories, Admiral. Kyung-ho looked at him with the same expression he might use when examining an interesting insect. Are they? Did the Korathi vote to join your empire? Did they sign a treaty? Or did you simply show up with warships and demand their surrender? The answer was obvious, and it was the same for every species in the Valak Empire. Dr. So Young had been working with Valak scientists, sharing her research about their true history. Many Valak were shocked to learn that their entire civilization was built on ancient technology they did not understand. We thought we were the natural rulers of the galaxy, admitted bioanalyst Vrektal. We believed we had earned our position through strength and intelligence. Evolution does not work that way, Dr. So Young explained gently. No species is naturally meant to rule others. The only thing that makes one species superior to another is what they choose to do with their abilities. The liberation of Valak space continued with mechanical efficiency. Human ships arrived at Valak worlds, offered free transportation to anyone who wanted to leave, and departed with thousands of refugees. They did not fight the Valak military. They simply made it irrelevant. They are stealing our empire without firing a shot, reported Guard Captain Morthek. No, corrected Diplomat Prime Zethkar. They are showing us that we never had an empire. We only had prisoners. The moment that broke Valak pride completely came when War Prime Gextar challenged Captain Jinne to single combat. In Valak culture, leadership disputes were settled by personal combat between the strongest warriors. I challenge you to prove that humans are truly superior, Gextar announced in the main arena. If you win, we will acknowledge your species as the apex predators of this galaxy. If I win, your fleet will withdraw and leave us in peace. Captain Jinne accepted the challenge, though she pointed out that the outcome would not actually change anything. Win or lose, Admiral Kyung-ho will continue the liberation operations. This fight is only to help you understand what you really are. The Valak expected a brutal battle between two warriors. Gextar was over 8 feet tall, with natural weapons and armor that had been enhanced by ancient technology. Jinne was a human woman who barely reached his chest. The fight lasted exactly 37 seconds. Jinne did not try to match Gextar's strength or compete with his natural weapons. Instead, she treated the combat as a problem to be solved. She used his size against him, turned his strength into a weakness, and exploited his assumptions about how fighting should work. When Gextar charged with a roar meant to terrify his opponent, Jinne simply stepped aside and used his own momentum to send him crashing into the arena wall. When he got up and tried to use his claws, she was no longer where he expected her to be. The War Prime found himself on the ground, immobilized by a human who had used technique and intelligence instead of brute force. He was not injured, but he was completely helpless. This is what real predators do, Jinne said as she helped him to his feet. We adapt, we learn, we solve problems. Size and strength are just tools. Intelligence and cooperation are weapons. The psychological effect on the Valak was devastating. Their greatest warrior had been defeated by someone who weighed less than half what he did. Everything they believed about strength and power had been proven wrong. Admiral Kyung-ho used this moment to offer the Valak a choice that no one had ever given them before, the chance to join the galactic community as equals instead of trying to rule it as tyrants. Your species has potential, he told the assembled Valak leadership. You are intelligent, you are capable of learning, and you can be strong allies. But first you must stop trying to be something you are not. Ambassador Dong Wook presented the Valak with a treaty that was unlike anything they had ever seen. Instead of terms of surrender, it was an invitation to join a community of equals. Instead of demanding tribute, it offered trade agreements and technology sharing. We do not want your submission, Dong Wook explained. We want your partnership. The galaxy is a big place with many challenges. We would prefer to face them together. Diplomat Prime Zethkar read the treaty carefully. He had spent his career writing documents that forced other species to accept Valak dominance. This treaty was different. It assumed that all species had equal rights and equal value. Why would you offer this to us? He asked. We were your enemies. We captured your people. Because, Ambassador Dong Wook replied, that is what real apex predators do. We protect the pack. And like it or not, you are part of the pack now. The dissolution of the Valak Empire happened peacefully over the following months. Species that had been conquered centuries ago established their own governments and joined the growing galactic community that Earth was helping to organize. Some Valak chose to leave their homeworld and explore the galaxy as individuals. Others worked to rebuild their society based on cooperation instead of domination. A few even joined human crews as they continued their mission of contact and liberation. Commander Hyun Woo returned to the UES Perseverance with his crew, but their mission had changed. Instead of simple exploration, they were now part of the integration fleet, helping former Valak subjects establish their own spacefaring civilizations. Dr. So Young established a research station on Kethmar to study the ancient ruins and help the Valak understand their true history. Many young Valak joined her team, eager to learn about science and exploration instead of conquest and intimidation. The final scene took place in what had once been the Valak Command Center. It was now a school where Dr. So Young taught classes about evolution and galactic history to mixed groups of young beings from many different species. What makes a species an apex predator? She asked her students. A young Valak raised his hand. Size and strength? No, Dr. So Young smiled. Those things can help, but they are not the most important. A small Karathi student spoke up. Intelligence? That is closer, but still not complete. A human child who was visiting with her parents thought for a moment. Is it the willingness to protect others instead of hurting them? Exactly, Dr. So Young nodded. Real apex predators use their strength to make the world safer for everyone, not just themselves. They know that a strong pack is better than a strong individual. She looked around the classroom at the young faces from a dozen different worlds. That is why humans were able to change the galaxy, not because we were the strongest or the smartest, but because we understood that true strength comes from lifting others up, not putting them down. Outside the classroom windows, ships from many different species could be seen coming and going from the spaceport. Former enemies worked together, shared knowledge, and built something better than any of them could have created alone. The galaxy's fiercest predators had discovered that humans were unstoppable. But they had also discovered something more important. Humans did not want to stop them. They wanted to help them become something better. And in the end, that made all the difference.